What are the three big trends that you need to be aware of today when looking at the gold price? This and more in today's video update from GoldCore, your precious metal specialist. Welcome to today's video update, where we're looking at three big trends likely to affect the gold market. Number one, the US elections. Trump is gaining some, but Biden is still leading. It looks like Biden will win. You can see in this graph of polls that the lead for Biden is still strong, but polls can and are frequently wrong, and this election is not certain. The question now is that if Biden does win, by how much will it be? And if it's a narrow margin of victory, will it be contested and the results drawn out in a tedious remake of Bush v. Gore in the 2000 elections? Hang in, Chads, anyone? I can tell you, though, that the market is hoping for a quick and decisive victory so that urgent financial relief and stimulus can be agreed and released. You can't rule Trump out. Even if his poll numbers look poor, he rates quite highly in economic matters with the electorate, and he also appeals to real base fears. The more concerned and worried the US electorate become, the more voters may support him. Why? Because he's seen as a brawler, and he'll fight harder than Biden, who can appear old and weak and frail. Polls are not to be trusted, and this election is far from over. Regardless of who wins, we will see a massive injection of so-called printed money. Stimulus. Estimated by some to be as much as $6.5 trillion. In this scenario, with money washing over every market, inflation is more likely to take hold. And when it does, central banks will be forced to take away the monetary punch bowl from the financial markets and increase interest rates. These same markets, let's be frank, have relied on a massive stimulus since the early 2000s, and even more recently since the global financial crisis in 2009. When they realize that the monetary tap has run dry, they'll throw the mother of all tantrums. This could see a massive drop in broader stock markets, which are massively overvalued by almost any metric. A great way to see how out of whack market prices for stocks are is the Shiller-Cape ratio, shown here in this graph. It places the current S&P 500 index of the largest US listed company stocks at 31.41. The long-term average in the index is just 15. In a market that is in freefall, we may see an overshoot to the downside, bringing the potential for the S&P 500 to fall below 1,000 points. That's a 70% collapse. In any case, such money printing will support gold prices. Why? Because many will buy gold as a safe haven. Initially because they'll see the writing on the wall, and as such, they'll call the gold taxi early in the night, knowing full well that those left of the party doing laps in the punch bowl will soon get a rude awakening. Gold prices may well be a lot higher when this happens, and available gold stocks may not be around at affordable prices. In this scenario, where gold demand is so strong and availability so rare, some have described it as being like a new metal called unobtainium. Number two, we are hurtling towards Brexit. It's easy to forget that quite literally on our doorstep is the threat of Brexit, another massive unknown for all of us. It would seem that the threat of a no-deal Brexit is very real at this stage. An economy the size of the UK leaving the European Union is a globally relevant event and without precedent. The UK is second only to Germany in terms of importance to the EU. Without the UK, the EU will fundamentally change. Perhaps for the better in some ways, but very much for the worse in the short term. Ireland, where we're based, is at greatest risk, primarily because of the physical border we share with the UK. The reliance on the UK as a market for exports and imports, and the fact that the UK is a transit route to the EU market for the Irish, represents a huge threat. The biggest Brexit-driven, globally relevant risk is actually to the EU. and its core integrity. In one very plausible scenario, an EU battered by global economic events, think COVID, debt crisis, USA v China, environmental risks, well, it may well lose its appeal for battered, failing member countries. If a newly nimble UK with a devalued currency can gain liftoff and take economic flight post-Brexit and develop a new, highly dynamic, productive global export economy, how will EU membership look to debt-laden countries such as Italy or an inefficient Spain with its huge youth unemployment problems? Will they seek to frustrate the EU and its functions while looking on enviously at a new shiny UK? The EU is vulnerable and has been for quite some time. So far, it's been held together by sticky tape in the form of ECB bond buying, an act that is convenient as it is short-sighted. As evidence of this folly, consider that the Irish government bond is yielding minus 0.22%. This is what so-called investors demand to hold Irish government debt during a COVID crisis and with Brexit looming. This is patently false and shows that the markets are being managed and the people denied the right to manage their money as they see fit. No serious-minded investor would lend money to get less back when the borrower risks are so high. UK investors have turned to gold, as shown in this chart, in order to help their portfolios navigate these unknowns, rewarding them with a 26% return this year alone. Number 3, the COVID crisis. It seems that we're in the midst of a second wave of infections in Europe, with extraordinary measures being deployed in many European states. Most notably, Spain has announced a state of emergency. France has curfews. And yes, COVID is a trigger for many people with many differing opinions. And indeed, there is a lot of room for concern in terms of how serious a threat it is and how it is to be managed. The raw fact for government is that if it's left go without a response, it may overwhelm many economies and health systems. And the effects of that on the broader economy could be dramatic and may well be worse than the curfews and lockdowns that make up the official response. It could spark a deep recession and depression where populations go to ground financially and don't spend for fear of being abandoned financially. I sense that for most, the concerns are related to lifestyle being impeded and disrupted. The emotional well-being of many is being tested. I do not sense a general economic fear this time, as one might see in a depression, although that could change depending on how the fiscal policies of governments develop. For now, the cases are surging. Populations are adapting, and with time, treatment options will improve, and we will hopefully see a return to normality. Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel by hitting the subscribe button, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Until next time.